They've been singing us in. You missed it. Good morning. If you take a big, deep breath, you can smell the weekend. Yeah, it's the last weekend of August. That's what it is, yeah.
I thought it was something.
Maybe it's just me. I don't know, my natural fragrance.
There is a
I have
smell.
no idea. It's the 30th of August. Happy Friday, everyone.
Do you know what it is? I smell sunscreen. Because you're just back from your holidays.
I'm just
you're still like all balmy.
Still looking out at me Peter Pan, do you know what I mean?
Anyway, it's lovely to have you back.
I know.
Now, we're jealous of his tan, for God's sake. Anyway, coming up on today's show, relief for mortgage holders as a string of rate cuts are on the way. We'll have that story and everything else making today's papers in about 15 minutes.
In sport, we preview Ireland's prospects at the Paralympics with four-time Paralympian John Fulham, and with some fresh faces in the Irish squad, we look ahead to next weekend's clash against old foes England at 7:30.
Parents all around Ireland have been demanding school places for children with additional needs, calling for immediate action from the government. We'll be discussing this just before 8.
Plus, he first came to prominence in a rather memorable fashion, aged 12, as the star of Chris O'Dowd's much-loved sitcom Moone Boy. Actor David Rawle joins us after 8.
I can't wait for that. I loved him in Moone Boy.
It's hilarious.
I know. Now, it can be a minefield getting to know what exercises are safe in each pregnancy trimester. We've advised on keeping active safely in your last 3 months.
And songstress Róisín O talks new music, collaborating with her mammy, Mary Black, and her very exciting engagement. That's coming up after 9.
Now, Derek is out and about this morning. How are you getting on wherever in the name of God you are today, Derek?
Ooh.
Love Róisín O, guys. Yes. Good morning, lads. We're down here in County Kildare now. It is a misty and quite a foggy start, but the good news, not only is that it's Friday, is that we have a lovely ridge of high pressure building right across the weekend. So we've nice, dry, sunny and settled weather out there today. So good news for anyone heading down to Coldplay night 2 in Croke Park later on today. But park all that because we've landed here down at the K Club. Straffan in County Kildare is where we're at this morning. They've got an international sculpture and art exhibition taking place here in the grounds. So we're talking the likes of Dandy, Warhol, Banksy, you name it. They've got it down here. So we're going to be taking you on a tour of it a little bit later on this morning. Did any of you manage to get to Coldplay last night? Any sore heads?
No, we were very good.
Yeah.
We all had to go to bed because we had work this morning.
Yes, we're
Very well
sensible.
behaved.
In bed by 9 o'clock, all snoozies.
All 3 of us.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Cura Míle Hannah, Tommy Bjorn Show, Chunta Kildare, broadcasting live here from the K Club. We're down in Straffan here in County Kildare. Coming up into the next hour, we're taking you on a tour of their international art and sculpture exhibition here on the ground. So that's all coming your way live at 8:45. So do hang with us for that. Now we're on to the second last day of August. Owen Kelly with us on cameras this morning. So let's take an opening look at how it's shaping up for your day ahead. And if you're driving out and about on the roads nice and early, it is a little bit of a misty, a little bit of a foggy start out there at the moment, but the good news is that it is holding mainly dry across the island with a beautiful sunrise onto the east coast and elsewhere. Some really nice sunshine now kicking through as we progress our way into the 30th of the month in those light variable breezes. Now pushing our way through the day, take a look at the map because we have that lovely ridge of high pressure building right across the weekend, holding mainly dry, sunny and settled. Good news for anyone heading to Coldplay night 2 tonight at Croke Park. It is holding once again dry down there. Top values in around 17 to around 20 degrees in that variable airflow once again. So right across into time, very similar to last night. We're going to see some pockets of mist, a little taste of fog as well. So do dip in and out of your fog lights as you need them. Elsewhere holding dry and settled, but good clear skies working away tonight into your Saturday morning with overnight lows there back to 7 to 12 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up here down in Straffan in County Kildare at the moment. A beautiful morning out there this morning. We'll be back again live 7:35. We'll see you then.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media One.
Now let's have a first check on your morning paper, starting with the Irish Times. It leads with Cardinal Health took $100 million US dividend as 300 jobs cut. The paper writes that this payment disclosure is likely to lead to workers demanding bigger redundancies as the US Medical Devices Group plans to eliminate more than 300 jobs in County Offaly when they close their Tullamore plant.
The front page of the Irish Independent opens with relief for mortgage holders as string of rate cuts are on the way. The paper writes that mortgage holders can expect a series of interest rate cuts as falling inflation across Europe should offer relief on monthly repayments.
Moving over to the Irish Examiner, which goes with thieves hit bank account of FOTA visitor. The paper writes that there is deep concern for customers of the wildlife park's financial safety, as one recent visitor describes how cyber criminals attempted to empty his bank account after he booked online tickets to the park last month.
On to the tabloids now, and the Irish Daily Mail reads, childcare boost for thousands of parents. The paper writes that a much-needed reduction in childcare costs will save families €144 per month per child in full-time care starting next week.
The Irish Daily Mirror goes with gunned down. The paper writes that 2 teenagers have been arrested in connection to the death of chef Sean Brady, who was shot outside his US restaurant following a confrontation with car thieves.
The Irish Daily Star also covers the death of the Tipperary native chef with their headline, Blasted by Teen Gang.
The Herald's headline reads, Trio's shotgun shambles. The paper writes that the Gardaí believe a gun attack was foiled after 3 people were arrested with a loaded firearm in Dublin after their car cut out.
And finally, the Irish Sun writes, Threes Electric. The paper writes that Oasis are poised to add another Dublin date when their 2 Croke Park concerts sell out in minutes tomorrow.
Now we'll have much more on what's making today's headlines after this short break. See you in 3. You're very welcome back to Ireland. I'm Sheena Cahill, Account Director with DHR Communications, and Deputy Political Editor with the Irish Examiner, Paul Hosford, are here now to talk us through some of today's headlines. And for once, it's good news for mortgage holders, and even better news if you're on a tracker mortgage. It seems, yes, headlines in the Indo today shows maybe a bit of a glimpse of joy for those who are holding a mortgage and are getting maybe a bit squeezed lately?
Yeah, particularly those who are on tracker mortgages. That's about a quarter of the mortgage market, 180,000 people. They had 10 consecutive increases last year, up to September last year. They'll know that the pinch was put on them over the last couple of years. The idea there from the European Central Bank was to bring down that headline inflation rate. We see across Europe, Germany, Spain, France, Ireland as well, all reporting that they've gotten below the 2% target quicker than anticipated. So what we expect now is that the ECB will bring down its headline rate by 0.25%, and that there'll be what's called a technical adjustment of about 0.35%. So there are 2 separate things that will come in the next 3 weeks. We're expecting another cut by December. What it means, the knock-on effect, the 0.25% cut is about. So the example that the Independent is using, the example that's most commonly used, is a mortgage that's got 15 years left on it, €100,000. What it would mean is about €13 a month, about €156 a year. The technical adjustment is about €17 a month, about €200 a year. So if it will vary from your mortgage depending on your circumstances, but if you're on a tracker mortgage, if you're one of those people who are on tracker mortgages, you could be in line for a couple of €100 a year saving, which, look, it will probably be eaten up by other cost of living concerns, but it's nice to have back in your pocket.
But the people on the trackers were most hit by their interest rate rises of recent times with the ECB, because it just went up and up and up and up over the last number of years. So they're the ones who feel it most because they're not fixed.
Yeah, and that's been, I suppose, the argument from the ECB was, look, we know that this is going to impact people. We know that the tracker rate has been lower than fixed rates over the last couple of years. What we're aiming to do is to bring down that headline inflation. Everyone knows that inflation has gotten really, really bad over the last couple of years. Reports yesterday that it was 1.1% in Ireland. That's where roughly where the government wanted it to be, where the ECB wanted it to be, below 2%. And now the idea is that you kind of start giving some of those hikes back to consumers. I'm not sure you will get back to. I don't think you'll get 10 consecutive cuts, but you will probably get 3 or 4 over the next couple of months.
Yeah, but will the cost be passed on quickly by the banks? Because they're great to put up the rates when the rates go up by the ECB and pass it on to people, but they're not so quick to pass on the savings, really. So that is, well, the idea
with the tracker is that because it's linked to the ECB rate, that it should happen more or less immediately. It's what will happen to people who are on fixed rates. There's about 80,000 people who are set to come off their fixed rate over the next while. They're the people who will be anxiously looking at the ECB rates, because the rates at which banks are borrowing, if they remain high, then You know, the interest rate on the mortgages could be you know, when you go back to refinance, could be, you know, in around 4.5%, 5%, which is
I suppose it's all
a lot of money.
It's all great if you have a mortgage and you have a house that you're paying off. But if you're looking for a house and want to buy a house or a home in any way, shape or form,
don't look at me, Elaine. I'm under enough pressure as it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's not looking good. Some startling statistics in the front of the Independent today. That people, about 40% of new homes were bought in block sales. It's starting, which means basically that financial institutions, local authorities or charities or housing bodies, they're buying up the bulk of the new builds that are available in the market. So all these headline figures that the government give us saying, oh, we're going to put 40,000 units on the market next year and blah, 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 that's all well and good, but people like you and me can't buy them.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Ellen Coyne's report in the Indo looks at, I suppose, the difference in figures between two kind of key reports. There was a report by the Property Price Register, which indicated originally that there was 11,876 new housing units sold in Ireland last year. But the new D&G report, which Ellen is referring to, is actually now claiming that the correct figure isn't 11,876, but is 17,039. And the reason for that difference is because the D&G report, which is the new report, is actually looking at any sales of houses of more than 3 houses together. They're saying that's probably not a private housing a person, like a regular person off the street.
It's like us. I'll buy those 3 houses down the road because I have loads of money. That's not going to happen.
So really you're moving into, it's an investor of some kind territory. And so what is interesting about those figures is it's not a small number of houses impacted. What it's saying to us is that there's a hell of a lot more people, there's a hell of a lot more houses going towards kind of larger investment funds, but also charities, local authorities. And so that's all of those investment groupings are taking what could be a once-off house for a family or for a person out of the market. So as Ellen says in the Irish Independent, you know, people are being locked out of the housing market, partly because they're now in competition, or they indeed have always been, with investors, like, again, their local authority. And nobody, I think, you know, it's not that there's an argument that a local authority or a charity, like a housing body, is the same as a financial cuckoo or investment fund kind of taking up all of the houses, because obviously a local authority is supporting people on housing lists. So are people who are, so are the housing bodies.
But then the argument there, I suppose, is public housing built by the government on public land, and that because they're not doing that, then they're in competition in the private market, Paul, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the issues that you have is that you view it as a competition. That what we talk about is targets. We talk about targets constantly. So when you see a housing body buying up numbers of houses, that's because they're under pressure to deliver targets for local authorities, who are under pressure from the Department of Housing to deliver targets, who are under pressure from central government to deliver on targets. And what you're ignoring is the reality of the actual market. So we talk about, there'll probably be 40,000 homes delivered this year. They'll probably build 40,000. The market will deliver 40,000 homes. Where they go, how affordable they are, doesn't get talked about. And affordability never gets talked about.
Take almost half of them off straight away because they're not going to families or individuals who want to buy a home. And even at that, how many of them are bought to rent. It's just the whole system seems to be very, very broken.
Yeah, and this idea that we have to race to build and build and build and build without looking at what we're building, where we're building,
and who's allowed to buy them.
And there are rules about, there was stamp duty changes brought in about multiple purchase. Doesn't seem to have deterred big investors. We see constantly that there are big investors that are buying multiples, 100 units. But the problem there is that developers are sitting on land that they can't build on because they don't have financial certainty. So if an approved housing body comes to them, or an investment fund comes and says, I'll pay you right now half of the cost to build these homes, then they've got financial certainty. They can put shovels in the ground. They can actually get the homes built.
But that's in the next budget. It looks like they're going to be taxed on if they are sitting on land that could be built on. So
yeah, and this is a long-awaited vacant land tax, which has been delayed again. I think the likelihood is that it will come around in some form in the next while. I think there's a multitude of problems within the housing market that don't get talked about, like, who's in competition with who.
So the headline figures are great. We're going to deliver this many units to this many homes, but when it trickles down to who can actually buy them, the real figure is quite grim.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that the bigger problem is that the affordability is never discussed as part of the thing. Like I live in what was a new build development 6 years ago. House prices where we are more or less doubled. Same house that we bought 6 years ago is on the market for almost double, which it's not worth that. It wasn't worth what we paid for 6 years ago.
It's going back to the bad old days, and the really bad old days. And we all, well, I don't know about you, but I remember the last time the Celtic Tiger and everything that went badly wrong after that. Who knows if it'll happen again. Anyway, both of you, thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning with lovely news. Well, a little bit of good news, tempered by a lot of bad. Now, sport is next. See you after this short break.
Yes, we've got a busy weekend, a busy day of sport ahead. So editor of the 42.ie, Niall Kelly, and four-time Paralympian John Fulham join me with all the latest in sport. Good morning to you both, gents.
Good morning.
John, we'll start with you, because four-time Paralympian. So this is like Christmas, I suppose, for you. We look at the team that Ireland have sent, 35 there. And is it a reasonable target for us to be looking for 8 to 10 medals?
Oh, I don't want to put the pressure on the lads like that. That's not fair. I haven't been there a long time ago. It's. Do you know what? I think this team, it's an exciting team because there's a lot of new faces in this team. We've been very, very blessed over the years to have really talented athletes, and life goes on. They get old, so we're on a bit of a down from that crest, but we're moving on to the next level. So it'll be really interesting to see what our athletes. We've got some really talented athletes out there, and we will have some medal prospects. Róisín O in the swimming, Nicole Turner, Katie George Dunleavy on the bike, possibly Ronan Grimes, and then we look into athletics. That's the one where we miss Jason and Michael. Which would have been kind of our bankers, for want of a better word. But we've got new athletes in there, Shauna, and I'm looking at Orla Comerford, who's really blossoming into her potential. So there's some really interesting stuff there.
Okay, and we can't forget the rowing.
Rowing, well, they're starting today, Tiernan and Katie, and Tiernan is new to this, having played wheelchair basketball before, so they're an exciting young pair in the boat, and I'd be really interested to see what they're going to do.
Well, their training partners are, of course, Paul O'Donovan and Fintan.
Yes.
So, who are double gold Olympic medals. So, there's...
The culture's there.
The culture
is
there.
They were down there, and they were... Tiernan was telling me recently at an event that they're down there and they're in the room with them, and that culture breeds success. And they're literally training to the nth degree, to the point that you're nearly... getting sick on the floor with the exhaustion. That's what they do. They work so hard. And these guys have put in tremendous effort. And I know Katie has had a little bit of challenge with her back over the past couple of months, but she's determined. So I'm really interested to see how they'll go.
OK. Ellen Keane is a name that we've become very, very familiar with. And she says this will be her last Paralympics. She's represented Ireland, like your good self, on many, many occasions. She starts today. She's got a heat, and we say with fingers crossed, because we take nothing for granted, a possible final tonight. Yeah. So what are her chances, in your opinion?
Ellen will be in the mix. Like Ellen, if you look, she started when she was 13, so she's followed the pathway of success to where she got gold in Tokyo, and it's tough to keep that going, but Ellen is determined. She works hard, and she's in that mix. It's at the high. What we're celebrating here is sport at the highest level. So she's the difference between her and her competitors are marginal, but that's what you expect at this level. So I would be optimistic that Ellen can medal at this Games, without a doubt.
Can you explain to us, because there are those who would have settled down yesterday to start watching, because yesterday was the first full day of competition, the different classifications. Can you explain that for us?
Well, classification. That's a hard question. Classification is the purpose of classification is to ensure fair competition in sport. So athletes are assessed physiologically, and then they're assessed functionally and how they can move in relation to their abilities. And they're put in categories that are aimed to put similar level of function together so that it's fair. So that's essentially what classification is. So if people see different categories with numbers and association, that's what it's about. And they're vision impaired athletes will race with vision impaired athletes. You'll see then in swimming You'll probably see a bit more of a mix because it depends on how they work in the pool. Wheelchair athletes in athletics will race with wheelchair athletes, and depending on that level of functionality. So that's what classification aims to do. But I could keep you here all day talking about classification, to be honest with you. It's a difficult one to get your head around if you're not into it.
Okay, well we have a better idea of it now for those who might have been a little unsure. Anyway, we keep our fingers crossed that we have a better day 2 than we did at day 1. Niall, I'm sure you're across all sports. But let's talk about football. Last night's football, Shamrock Rovers. Disappointing. Well, it's been a disappointing round for them, but at least they have the cushion of knowing they're going into the Conference League now.
For sure, last night, really, the tie was over and done after last week's 4-0 defeat against PAOK. I think we've seen that there is probably not unexpectedly a gulfing class between these two teams. Like PAOK, ruthless last week, ruthless again last night, really punished any mistakes that Rovers might make. It was kind of an even enough first half, although Leon Poles was definitely the busier of the two goalkeepers, made a few good saves and opened up early in the second half. Rovers had a good chance at 0-0. Sean Kavanagh's free kick, and you kind of think for Rovers, they had a decent crowd there last night. Would be nice to get a win at home, pick up a few coefficient points. Yes, it wouldn't have really mattered in terms of the tie, but again, once PAOK got their chances, 2 chances there in the second half, and they were fairly ruthless in punishing them. But you know, it's onwards and upwards for Rovers now, because they're in the draw for the league stages of the Conference League today. It follows kind of a similar format to the new format Champions League that people would have seen yesterday.
Yeah, I know. Talk about classifications. New Champions League. I mean, just as complicated.
Well, if you could start to get your head around it yesterday, you'll have a second and third go today with the Europa League and the Conference League to maybe pick it back up again. But you know, they'll be in pot 4 today, which means that they will have a few teams better than them. They'll come up against a few teams better than them. You look at the pot 1 teams, you're looking at Chelsea would be the obvious glamour tie there, if a glamour tie is what you want, or someone like Copenhagen or Fiorentina. But they will have a couple of teams from pot 5 and pot 6 in with them as well. And let's not forget, you only need to be in the top 24 here to progress to the knockout rounds in February. So that can be a realistic aim. And there's also 400 grand in prize money for every game you win. So I think if you're trying to map out an ideal draw for Rovers today, maybe one glamour tie in which you can get a huge attendance and bank some attendance money, and then a few games that you can realistically look at going after winning will be good. So we'll keep an eye on that later.
Okay, next weekend we've got England coming to town to play Ireland in the United Nations League. Yesterday, our new manager Helmar announced his first squad with Seamus Coleman back in.
Big boost.
And which is great. Yeah, we saw him play the other night in the Carabao Cup. And Evan Ferguson back in too.
Yeah, again, two big boosts. And it was really interesting to hear like how Heimer Hallgrimsson and John O'Shea and Paddy McCarthy have approached this, because he's been very clear that, you know, in the initial stages, he's only getting used to Irish football. He's only getting used to the setup, the players, how things are done, and very much leaning on John O'Shea and Paddy McCarthy, led to believe that they were the two staff members who picked the 23-person squad yesterday. So it'll be really interesting to see how that, like, it's a baptism of fire. Like, you don't get a bigger game than England at home to start. Really interesting as well. I suppose the headline from it all yesterday was Casey McAteer from Leicester City winger, who has been called in for the very first time. That's a process that has been ongoing for a long time, back since I think Stephen Kenny was the first person to try and bring him in. But again, having another player of that calibre in our squad to choose from, we're seeing this week more players move back into the Premier League. Ipswich seem to be trying to sign every single Irish player they can at the moment, which is no bad thing.
FC,
yeah, no bad thing. So look, they're obviously missing a couple of players as well. Like Josh Cullen has been an ever-present in midfield, and like he will be missed there. But it's a strong squad. It's an interesting squad, and you know, it'll be really interesting to see. Maybe is it a bit of a shot to nothing next week? Maybe, but we'll see. It'll be very interesting to see how things go.
We'll certainly be watching, that's for sure. That's for sure. As we'll be watching today, in the hope that we get some medal prospects at the Paralympics. John, Niall, thanks so much.
Cheers,
thank you.
Okay. Up next, we meet the father who was pleading for help in his autistic son's endless fight for a place in school. We're back with you after this break.
You're very welcome back to Ireland AM now. Over the last few months, parents of children with additional needs have been appealing for help in their endless fight for their children's right to an education.
Greg Lewis and his wife began searching for secondary school places for their son Sam last October, but have since been rejected by 16 schools and counting. Greg joins us now along with Adam Harris, CEO of autism charity As I Am. Good morning.
Morning.
Great to have you on. Greg, you may tell us a little bit about your son Sam.
So Sam is 13. He's a non-verbal child who has an intellectual disability. He is the most lovable child. Lack of sleep can be a little bit hard at times. He likes to see the sunrise in the morning. But yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah. So in terms of him going to school and finding a place for him, he's primary school education. Where was he going to and what was that like?
So Sam went to the Holy Child in Larkhill, a fantastic school. They've done such an amazing job to get him where he is now. So Sam graduated. There was loads of tears at the end of last June. And then the battle began to try and find him a school place for should have been last Monday.
Yeah. And you're at it since last October, basically looking for a place for him.
Yeah.
And how many schools have you applied for?
16.
And are they all special needs schools, or are they secondary schools with units attached?
So on Sam's psychologist report, he can go to either a special school or a mainstream school that has an autism class in it.
Yeah, and no luck so far.
No luck, because a lot of the schools that we've applied to are outside what's called the criteria area, or the catchment area.
Yes.
So because where we live, we've got 4 senior schools and only 1 has a unit, and we have 2 special schools, but they're both full at the moment.
So there's no joined up thinking there at all, really, Adam, is there, when it comes to actually preparing from the transition to primary and secondary school? Because we know there's not enough primary school places anyway, but it just seems a constant battle for parents.
It's a constant battle, and I think what we see here is a real lack of multi-annual thinking. The reality is Sam was always going to go to primary school for 8 years. He was always going to need an autism class place this year, and yet there seems to always be nearly a surprise or a sense of panic in the summer that why don't we have these places in place? We have a reality that families are repeatedly sent to schools where we know there is no place, but going through that emotional turmoil of applying for 10, 20, 30 school places. You know, around the country today, and in the days coming and past, we've seen children start school. It's a rite of passage for every child in the country. Many families have their pick of schools, and yet for our children, there isn't that same chance. There is children sitting at home while their brothers and sisters go to school, and that is just entirely unacceptable, and it's also entirely avoidable. You mentioned a lack of joined-up thinking. There's a reality that we see a situation where children are being bused long distances outside of their community at a cost of millions of euros per week, and yet this department is failing to put in place the capital investment that's needed to open autism class and special school places where they are needed.
Adam, you may talk a little bit about the importance for some autistic children to receive specialised education.
Well, I think what's really important is that every child has an access to the appropriate education that meets their need. This isn't just something that is a nice to have, it is their constitutional right. And yet to vindicate that right, we see parents have to go to the High Court, we see parents have to come onto television studios, to have to march on the department, and that's wholly inappropriate. You know, for many autistic students, the reality is our current school system is not inclusive. The sensory environment of a busy classroom, a lack of teacher training, a lack of predictability across the school day, a lack of specialised support, often a disconnect between the supports you need in the community in terms of therapeutic supports and what happens in the classroom means that for many children a specialised placement is really important, be that in an autism class or a special school. And yet we see parents have to fight for that. The unfortunate reality for many families within our community is getting the school place is just the first fight. There's then the fight for support in school. There's then the fight to make sure the person can actually learn, because of course inclusion isn't just being permitted into the building, it's having that inclusive environment that meets your needs. But the reality is if we provide that support, we can get to a point in which every child has the opportunity to reach their potential, and that surely is the right of every child to have.
When we speak about potential, I know there's a person in my life, and we were all thrilled last week doing his leaving cert, and when he went into primary school, that was a path we never thought he could take, but because he had the proper support structures in place from when he was young, getting ABA when he was younger, thankfully his parents could afford to do that, and now he went through primary school, he went through secondary school, and now he's going to college. That wouldn't have happened if you didn't get the support structures in place for him, and that's all you want for your son. But now you're in the very disturbing position where you or your wife have to give up your job full time to make sure he's educated.
Well, I work as an SNA myself. I'm within the departments of trying to help kids like Sam on a daily basis. So I am now at home looking after Sam, which means the department now have to employ someone to do my job, which really doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah.
And Greg, is there a fear that Sam might regress if he's not in the specialised environment he needs to be?
4 days into it, and we can see it. Like, Sam looks out the window, waiting to see is the taxi coming to pick him up, and he's looking at the empty lunch boxes, sort of wanting to put stuff in it to put it into a school bag. You know, it's heartbreaking as a parent to feel that your child is not important enough, as Adam said, just to have his constitutional right, just to have an education.
Yeah.
It's horrendous.
Adam, is the problem here money? Because the government will say, yes, we've allocated XYZ amount of money, this is going here, this is going there. Is the problem the actual planning and that is being put into this, or is there a huge more amount of money needed to invest in special needs education?
It's very clear to us that the capital budget is not being prioritised.
So it's money, they need more money.
We need more money. We need to see this prioritised as an issue. We see a scenario around the country where many building projects are delayed, but the first thing that should be prioritised in those building projects is provision for the students who are most in need and most at risk of not being able to learn when out of school. So we need to see a much greater prioritisation within this area. You know, we saw emergency legislation 2 years ago which gave the state the power to compel schools to open autism classes. And in year one, that had an impact because all of that grey space, those empty classrooms around the country, were brought to bear to open autism classes. We've run out of grey space. We need to see more modular. We need to see more buildings put in place with the required facilities. But we need to see that forward planning. You know, for 20 years, we didn't open a special school. We're seeing the impact of that. For many years, we allowed a situation for schools to opt out of opening autism classes. We're seeing the impact of that. And then there's also systemic issues on the ground, again, where there's a lack of effective management of data to work out where we need the school places and when, and also to make sure that those school places become available for the children who need them. So, for example, in many instances, we see schools open autism classes, but then actually in opening those classes with the 6 places, they're immediately backfilled by children already within the school. So we need to get much better at using the data. The Department of Education is capable of this. You know, we recently had Leaving Cert results. We've seen the machine that is the CAO system that prioritises, I suppose, that academic achievement element that sometimes the department focuses on all too much at the expense of children who need to have the opportunity to learn, to have their needs met within the education system. So we need to move away from local solutions, from asking parents to do all the planning and the knocking on doors, towards a centralised process. We need a demand-based circular next year because there is no excuse for this to happen summer after summer.
And you mentioned there the knocking on doors. Greg, you have applied for 16 schools. You've amassed 200 pages of documentation to support this. You've marched on the Department of Education. Is there a plan? What's the next step for you guys?
Very disappointed. Last Friday we had a march to the Department of Education to find that they'd hired extra security and locked us out of a public building. It was devastating for us parents. We next Tuesday at 4:30 outside the Garden of Remembrance, we're asking people whether you have a child with autism, whether you're a neighbour, a friend, an educator, please come and support us next Tuesday at 4:30 outside the Garden of Remembrance for another march down onto the Department of Education.
Just keep knocking on doors until one of them's open.
Absolutely.
For you, I guess. Thank you both so much for joining us on the show this morning.
Thank you.
For more information on autism awareness, go to asiam.ie.
And still to come, Moone Boy's David Rawle pays us a visit. And guess what? He's all grown up.
Plus, how to work out safely during your 3rd pregnancy trimester. We're back after this quick break.
Now let's have another check on your morning paper. Starting with the Irish Times, it leads with Cardinal Health took $100 million US dividend as 300 jobs cut. The paper writes that this payment disclosure is likely to lead to workers demanding bigger redundancies as the US Medical Devices Group plans to eliminate more than 300 jobs in County Offaly as they plan to close their Tullamore plant by next March.
Front page of the Irish Independent opens with relief for mortgage holders, a string of rate cuts on the way. The paper writes that mortgage holders can expect a series of interest rate cuts as falling inflation across Europe should offer relief on monthly payments.
Over to the Irish Examiner, which goes with thieves hit bank account of photo visitor. The paper writes that there is a deep concern for customers of the wildlife park's financial safety, as one recent visitor describes how cyber criminals attempted to empty his bank account after he booked online tickets to the park only last month.
On to the tabloids now, and the Irish Daily Mail reads, childcare boost for thousands of parents. The paper writes that a much-needed reduction in childcare costs will save families €144 per month per child in full-time care starting next week.
The Irish Daily Mirror goes with gunned down. The paper writes that 2 teenagers have been arrested in connection with the death of chef Sean Brady, who was shot outside his US restaurant following a confrontation with car thieves.
The Irish Daily Star also covers the death of the Tipperary native chef with their headline, Blasted by Teen Gang.
The Herald's headline reads, Trio's shotgun shambles. The paper writes that Gardaí believe a gun attack was foiled after 3 people were arrested with a loaded firearm in Dublin after their car cut out.
And finally, the Irish Sun writes, Three's electric. The paper writes that Oasis are poised to add another Dublin date when their 2 Croke Park concerts sell out in minutes tomorrow.
Now, we have had plenty of texts coming in this morning. A little bit earlier on, we had Greg in who was speaking about how he's struggling to get his autistic son Sam into a school, a place in a school. And then we had Adam from the As I Am charity as well. Kate texts in, it's heartbreaking that Greg had to give up his job as an SNA to take care of his son because no school could take care of him. And Marie says, every child has the right to an education and to develop with their peers. And I really hope that for all their sakes that they'll get it.
And a message from Sinead as well this morning, which I think echoes what a lot of parents are feeling as well. I love my kid more than anything in this world, but I have to admit that it's exhausting to have to always fight for your kid to get the rights and care that everyone else is seemingly born with. It's hard not to give up sometimes.
Look, every child is entitled to an education in Ireland. You know,
it's a right, it's a constitutional
it's a right. It's an absolute right. Karen says the same. School is starting, new students are getting to know each other, and Sam has to stay at home. I've no idea how the Department of Education can accept doing that to any child.
And Noel says Sam is lucky to have a dad like Greg. You can just see from how he speaks that Sam is his world.
Well, keep them coming. If you have experience of this, let us know. 0896 111 111. Also, earlier on, we were speaking about, well, I suppose it's in it's in loads of the newspapers as well, because guess what's happening at 8 o'clock tomorrow, lads?
Oasis.
Yes.
Oasis. Who's going to be in the queue? Have you ready to refresh the button?
All my kids, I've got 3 or 4 devices all set to go.
Are you serious?
In the hope that they can get tickets.
Well, apparently that's the best chance of getting one, just in case you are going to be one of these people up this morning. The best way was to be in this pre-sale ballot. Lots of information.
But that's like shut down.
But that's over now. So if you haven't got... If you're not in the pre-sale ballot, tough luck. You're just going to have to slog it out with everybody else. That lottery was there. But even if you are in the pre-sale ballot, you're not guaranteed a ticket as well.
I wonder how many people applied for the pre-sale ballot.
Oh, my God. It crashed the website.
I applied, so...
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you get... If you haven't...
I got an email. I don't know. Am I in?
Well, if you got an email that says you're in, you're in. If you're not, you're not. But apart from that, to increase your odds... Create your Ticketmaster account in advance. Make sure your bank details are actually saved in advance of the going of the sale. And this is crucial. 10 seconds before 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, right? 10 seconds before, refresh your page. Because if you refresh it afterwards and it's in the queue, you go back to square one.
Now, you're giving too many tips. Aim them just my direction, not to everyone at home.
Can we tell them this tomorrow?
We need to help. But tomorrow, if they won't be listening to us tomorrow. But they'll be on their laptops.
I did hear that if you're not there at 8 o'clock, if you wait a few minutes, your chances are better.
That's a tip that I can get behind. Yeah, wait half an hour, guys, you'd be grand.
No, I don't think. I think it's only 7 or 8 minutes.
But they're gone in 7 or 8 minutes. That's the problem.
There's going to be another gig. There has to be another
gig.
I love your positivity.
I'm hoping Slane. Oasis and Slane. That would be the gig of a lifetime. And please, on my birthday weekend, Oasis and Slane, because that's my birthday weekend next year.
I think Liam and Noel are making note of that right now.
Liam and Noel Gallagher, please send me a ticket to your gig for my birthday next year.
All right, well, let's wait and see.
Because I'd be very old, I deserve it.
Yeah. Well, we'll sort you out somehow. Up next, he's reminiscing on 12 years since Moone Boy and much more. Actor David Rawle joins us after the break. I wonder if he's trying to get Oasis tickets.
I'm sure everyone in the country is.
Find out in a minute. Welcome back. Our next guest was only 12 years old when he made his small screen debut alongside Emmy award-winning actor Chris O'Dowd in the hit TV series Moone Boy.
And now he's set to team up with Chris on a whole new project, but this time he's all grown up. Actor David Rawle joins us. Good morning. Lovely to have you on the couch today.
Morning,
I was just saying before we came on air, the last time I met you, I think you were about this size. We're at the IFTAs and God, I feel old now. Thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome.
So tell me, this new project with Chris, it's very exciting. Does it differ a lot to Moone Boy?
It is quite different. It's kind of a comedy drama. There's a bit of sci-fi in it. It's called Small Town Big Story. It's equally mad as Moone Boy because Chris O'Dowd has written it and has directed some of it and actually will be in some of it as well. I didn't have any scenes with them, unfortunately, but I'm really, really looking forward to seeing it. It's out in October on Sky and it's got an amazing cast. I mean, you've got Paddy Considine, Eileen Walsh, Christina Hendricks, like really, really incredible people. And, you know, unfortunately, I'm in it as well, but, you know...
Did you have to audition for this one, though?
I actually did, yeah.
Is it true that for your role in Moone Boy, you didn't even audition for it? You just landed straight in?
No, I definitely did for Moone Boy as well. Okay. No, but they were just looking for idiot children from the west of Ireland, and they said, "Well, we know one."
He's over in Leitrim.
He's over in Leitrim, and he hasn't a clue. But yeah, no, I had to audition for that as well.
First acting gig.
Yeah, totally. I actually auditioned for Ian O'Reilly's role of Porrick because I said, "Well, there's no point to going for the main role because I'd never get that." And then they asked, "So would you come back for Martin?" And I said, "I don't know why, but okay." And then, sure enough, I got the part.
Yeah, it took 2 or 3 rounds because that's the norm, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. I'd never acted before, you know. It was all just totally new to me. Yeah.
So, it certainly worked. Did you have an idea that this was a big production? This is going to be a big deal as you were making it?
No, I mean, I was just delighted that I was not in school, to be quite honest with you. I was like, this is way more crack than that. And like learning lines was so much better than doing maths. And I just thought, this is fun. Like it was a sense of getting to work on something that was really exciting and different and genuinely funny. And the comedy was so well written that it just kind of flowed naturally. It didn't feel like a job.
Yeah.
So I had no idea that it would become what it did and was so grateful when it did. But no, it was just, for me, it was just 6 weeks of pure joy.
Yeah.
Those 6 weeks, right, you go back to school after that?
Yes.
OK, so nobody has seen a glimmer of Moone Boy at this stage. So are you telling people in school what you've done? No?
Not at all. No, I think they genuinely were just like, "Jeez, he must have been sick or something. He must have been out with the flu." I didn't let on to anybody until it was kind of coming out. And then they were just like, "David, did I see you in a magazine?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. Yeah, that's this thing. Nah, you might be able to get it on Sky. Yeah, it's all right."
But yourself and Porrick, I mean, you did the rounds. You were like the next, the bromance of the century, really, with the two of you. Media darlings everywhere. How did you deal with the kind of sudden catapult to fame?
Look, my family kept me very grounded, and I was very lucky that I was able to live a very ordinary life. And as soon as I went back to school, everybody kind of went, you know, starting secondary, everyone kind of went, "Oh, are you the lad from Moone Boy?" And then once they'd gone, "Right, sound," and then it was just move on to the next thing and was treated very normally. And yeah, I think school was kind of the great leveller because you're just trying to keep up with everybody else.
So there was no risk of notions?
Yeah.
Not in my house.
So bearing in mind that like Chris was like your imaginary friend in Moone Boy, when you got involved in this new project, was there a strict rule, "No, we're not going to be in scenes together. We've already seen enough of each other"?
It wasn't in my contract. No, I think it was just the way that it was written. Unfortunately, we didn't have any scenes together. Our stories were kind of separate. I was playing Paddy Considine's son, so all of my scenes were with him, and he was kind of doing stuff with Christina Hendricks in quite a meta way. He was playing the writer of the TV show, in the TV show.
It's about a production that comes to this town.
Yeah, this huge Hollywood production comes to this small town in the west of Ireland, and it unearths all these secrets that have been buried in the town's past and all all sorts of crazy things happen.
So you're Paddy Considine's son, and of course he recently got bumped off in House of the Dragon.
Spoiler alert.
Well, there you go. Anybody
Sorry,
who hasn't
guys.
seen it,
Sorry.
he's gone.
Oopsie. Well, in fairness,
R.I.P.
most of anyone in the Game of Thrones franchise, really, they don't last too long in this
No, they
world.
don't.
So
They
I don't think it's
don't.
that much of a spoiler.
No.
But I mean, huge production there. Then you're working with Paddy, Christina Hendricks, of course, huge Hollywood star as well. So going back to work in that sort of sphere, when I suppose it was different in Moone Boy because you didn't really know what you were getting in for.
Totally.
But you've had a fair idea this time what the production was going to be like, really.
Yeah, and it was crazy because I would have been watching season 1 of House of the Dragon. I remember me and my housemates going, "Oh my God, Paddy Considine is the best thing in it. Like, he's such an extraordinary actor. Wouldn't you love to work with somebody like that someday?" And then suddenly to be working with them, and he's the most down-to-earth, ordinary, like genuine soul you could hope to meet. And he was so like, "Oh, is that all right? Will we try and do better next time?" And like trying to do new things. And that was just such a breath of fresh air for me. You know, it was still relatively early on in my career. Getting to work with such incredible people is just a
You're
gift.
still a baba, really, in relative terms. You are, though. I mean, so young to have already had a hit TV series. Now, what sounds like is going to be another hit TV series. I mean, Christina Hendricks is just fresh in from Hollywood, all the American stuff going on there. Are you tempted towards that sort of life, or would you continue to base yourself here, or what do you think?
I love Irish films. I love Irish plays. I love Irish TV shows. I love the work that comes out of Ireland, and I'm more than happy to stay here and to continue to be a small part of that, or to aim to be anyway, because I think the stuff that we do here is really magical, and it's the stuff that I feel most passionate about, to be honest. So yeah, there's definitely no notions to go off to Hollywood and try and become a superstar. That's not really something that's interesting to
Just
me.
want to be an actor.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Ireland has kind of become a hub. Both Northern Ireland and the Republic has become a hub over the last while. You mentioned you love Irish plays.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the production that you're in at the moment, afterwards.
Yeah, so afterwards is going to be on in Dublin Fringe. It's in the Peacock Theatre, and it's a play set in an abortion clinic in the UK, so lots of laughs. And it's about these 3 women who are kind of in the aftermath of this huge procedure, and they're kind of in this weird limbo where they have to stay overnight, and they're complete strangers to each other. And over the course of the play, we kind of find out more about them and who they are and why they're here, and secrets kind of get revealed. And, you know, they're kind of working out how they're going to move forward in the aftermath of this huge decision. But I know I was joking there, but it genuinely is a really beautiful play with a lot of heart, and there is a lot of laughs in it, and they are just trying to continue in kind of a very, very serious circumstances. But as with all things with Ireland, we want to find the bit of humour and the way to kind of get over these extreme situations.
And your character in this, what attracted you to playing this? Because it's, as you said, it is a very serious subject matter.
I just kind of fell in love with the role, to be honest, and I fell in love with the writing. And, you know, it was just a young guy who's friends with one of the women. He's not the father, he's not related to her. He was just somebody who found out the situation that she was in, and he said, "I'm going to help you go over, I'm going to help you to travel there, I'm going to pay for the procedure, we're both in college together," and understands the nature of her wanting to keep it private. And I just was really kind of inspired by this person, and I just thought it was such a beautiful thing, because I think as men we kind of feel that this is something that should be left to women to kind of sort out for themselves. But to see somebody who's extremely supportive and genuinely wanted to help and not to hide it or shy away from it. And, you know, as we see during the play, he does kind of put his foot in it slightly when he is talking to her, but he's got the best intentions. And I just thought that there was something really beautiful about seeing that.
Yeah, an important play and an important discussion will be had surrounding it as well, because unfortunately it's something that touched far too many Irish people over the years.
Yeah, and it kind of opened my eyes to the, you know, obviously after appeal it was a huge step forward, but there is still a long way to go in terms of access, and in terms of, you know, the shame around it that still exists. And, you know, the lot of the play deals with the protesters outside who are, you know, making these people who've just made these really, really difficult decisions, who are having to deal with, you know, people saying awful things just outside the door of this really, really personal decision. But I think it's important to be educated and to know what's going on.
Yeah, David, thank you so much for joining us and chatting to us on the show this morning. It's lovely to talk to you again.
Thank you so much, lads.
Remind you to you that David's play afterwards runs from September the 6th until the 14th on the Peacock stage of the Abbey Theatre before transferring to the Mermaid Arts Centre in Bray from September 18th to 19th. For more information and to book tickets, visit abbeytheatre.ie and mermaidartscentre.ie.
Now, coming up, are you pregnant and wondering how to exercise safely? We have advice after this short break. Stay with us.
Now, over the last few months, we've been learning about the do's and don'ts of exercise in women's first and second trimesters of pregnancy. Health and fitness expert Niamh Buffini is back, this time to make sure everyone's staying on tip-top form as you head into your third and final trimester. Niamh, great to see you. You have been with us from the start of your pregnancy. How are you feeling now you're in the third trimester?
I'm well on my way now, yeah. My due date is in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
So I'm feeling great. Not too bad at all. Of course, the tiredness comes along with trimester 3, the weight, you know, the added pains and aches and things like that. So it's all about managing your movement and managing the pain through different things like Braxton Hicks even, you know, they come along in trimester 3. So staying comfortable is the goal with exercise.
But what is the importance of exercising throughout the third trimester?
So the focus is to be labour ready. That big event that comes along, you know, we're anxious, we're stressed out about it already as it is, but we can help ourselves through exercise to ensure that labour day is a little bit easier.
Yes, because it can be a marathon for some women, can't it?
It can be a huge marathon, you know, days in labour. So exercise really helps with the endurance element of labour, and especially with the recovery afterwards.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
The third trimester is when a lot of people can feel obviously a lot of fatigue, as you mentioned there. So what's some way of exercising that makes sure that doesn't make the fatigue even worse?
Yeah, we want to stay away from making ourselves more tired. So again, comfort is key when we're exercising in trimester 3. Keep it slow. Keep it low impact, but you can also continue on your exercise regime if you have been doing it already, as we have. So we're going to progress things along, show you how to adapt exercises for T3. It sounds like Terminal 3 in Dublin Airport, ready for launch day. But enjoy it as well. Like, I would always encourage women to have an exercise partner with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm here to do today, Niamh. Let's start.
Okay. So we're going to start with a little bit of a warm up. Always warm up before you do your exercises. Okay. So shoulders can get a little bit tight, so we're going to roll and rotate the shoulders backwards.
Lovely.
Yeah, and forwards. And just making sure that your whole body is nice and relaxed. Okay, we're going to bring the arms forward now, interlock the fingers, and we're going to try and separate the shoulder blades, pulling baby bump in, and then push them back. And you're all the time trying to keep a nice, steady form. Okay. Now, whole body stretch. This is a lovely one for pregnancy, okay? So we're going to step the right leg back and to the side, bring the arms up, interlock the fingers, and we're just going to lean gently, really steady, only as far as you can, and then changing legs, opposite side.
This is great. This is my workout done for the day, Niamh. Honestly, I love when you come in.
It opens up the rib cage because we don't have much space in there with the growing bump. So we're going to take a big deep breath and release the arms down.
Lovely.
So that's a nice kind of short, quick warm up.
Yes.
To start off with.
Great. Okay. And then, so our first exercise then.
So our first exercise, we're going to go for a little bit of weighted work. Again, if you've been doing weights up to now, continue it on. Okay. So I have my baby car seat here. You've got your kettlebell.
I've got a weight, and you've got a. So is it better to use your own equipment like this?
Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah.
This is what you're going to be lifting with the baby in it.
True.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's very similar, just to show you in gym terms what it's like, what the movement is like.
Great.
So we're keeping our legs strong. We're making sure that our stance is nice and steady. We're not losing balance. You're going to lift the kettlebell because you can. I can't reach that low. Okay. And I'm going to lift the baby seat. And all we're going to do is pull in the baby nice and tight, bending the knees and standing with the weight. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Okay. And release it back down. Now, if you wanted to put extra weight into the chair, you can, you know. You can repeat this 6 to 8 times once it's comfortable.
Okay.
We're not trying to fatigue ourselves at all.
And how does the intensity and duration of exercises in this trimester differ from the first two?
So things are naturally going to slow down for you, okay? So you don't have to force anything. You don't have to force being too intense with your exercise, especially with the cardio. There's less space in our lungs to breathe, but we still want to maintain a certain amount of fitness levels.
Of course, yes.
So you're going to pull back on the reps, like 5 to 6 reps of each exercise.
Okay.
I'm already out of breath. So that's just the way it is, okay? Going up the stairs can be a challenge. So pull back on the reps, pull back on the amount of weight that you're lifting, and then maybe shorter duration from 20 minutes down to to 15 minutes for cardio.
So reduce it all round, really.
Reduce it all round.
You mentioned earlier that you can exercise during your third trimester and that can help you get ready for labour. So what are some exercises we can do to prepare for that day?
Perfect.
Or days, I should say.
So through T1 to T2, we did a lot of the Kegel pelvic floor exercises on the floor. You can now start doing them standing up if you've been keeping them up, okay? So they're a little bit more advanced, but we need these in order to keep ourselves really strong and fit for Labour Day. So we're going to do some butt squeezes standing and incorporate the butt squeezes with the Kegels, okay? So all you're doing is doing a pelvic tilt, squeeze the bum, tilt the pelvis forward, pull the baby bump in. I know you don't have one, but put your abs in and then release. So you're going to hold it for maybe 5 to 6 seconds and then release, relax.
Okay, so it's more a tense.
Tension.
Yeah. Okay.
So when we think about Labour Day, we think about tension, release when we're breathing through the contractions. And that's exactly what we're doing here.
And you know what, you could do that in a queue or anything. Like, you don't have to be really...
No, you wouldn't know.
No, don't go to the gym for
especially if
that.
you're just doing your Kegels as well. So you're pulling the pelvic floor up and back.
And relaxing.
Along with that.
Okay. Any particular exercises we should avoid in this time of pregnancy?
I would say try not to do too much flexibility work. So we can use a chair, we can use a birthing ball for stretching out the likes of our hamstrings, our groin. They usually get quite tight around this time, the lower back, but don't overdo it. Okay. We have lots of relaxant hormones going on. It's getting the pelvis ready for birth. Okay. So if we stretch or overstretch, it can just start the labour process a little bit early, and we don't want that to happen.
We don't.
So very easy with the flexibility.
Yes. And earlier you mentioned Braxton Hicks and ways to avoid it through pregnancy. So what can we do to help with that?
So breathing through Braxton Hicks really it's a great way to practice your breathing through labour. Braxton Hicks is literally just the practice for your body is preparing for Labour Day. So it's going to tense your abdominals and it's going to relax. It's going to tense and relax. It's very uncomfortable, it's very annoying, but it's a good sign that your body is trying to get ready for Labour Day. So I think breathing and getting into a position that's comfortable for you. You could be standing, you could be leaning against a wall, you could use your birthing partner.
Okay, so it's just breathing
as well.
Okay, we've time for one more quick exercise, Niamh. So what can you show us?
Okay, so we're going to keep the arms and shoulders strong with overhead press. So we're going to use our light dumbbells or kettlebells, whatever it is. You can also use a resistance band for these. Okay. So similar to the deadlift, we're going to do a squat down, bring the weight up to the shoulder and overhead press. And all the time keeping everything really steady. Okay. Now this is not light for me, okay? But I've been weight training all the way through and I could lift a little bit heavier to keep my shoulders a little stronger, but there's no need to be breaking records with weights.
No, we're not going for Guinness World Records at the moment.
Once you can maintain a level of strength, okay, and then you just change sides.
And do it on the other side.
Same, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Niamh, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Best of luck with the next few weeks. We'll be very excited. Hopefully we'll get you in for some postnatal classes then as well.
Yeah,
thanks.
Very excited.
Best of luck.
Thank
all
you.
right.
Thanks.
To find out more about Niamh's trimester pregnancy exercises, head on over to wellwithniamh.com. Up next, we cross over to Derek as he tries to steal some priceless artwork. We'll be back after this break. Ireland AM. Now, Derek is currently at one of Ireland's biggest art and sculpture events.
They have works by Andy Warhol, Salvador Dali and Banksy, amongst others. And with Derek learning how to do sculptures later on, his works might soon be among them.
You never know.
Well, how's it going, Derek?
Yes, good morning, team. You never know, my artwork could be featured in a gallery coming to you soon. Anyway, welcome down here to the beautiful grounds. We're live here from the K Club in Straffan in County Kildare. It's a beautiful morning, Oliver, isn't it?
Oh, beautiful.
Beautiful. Anyway, Oliver Gormley is with us. Oliver, I know we're going to chat to Patrick O'Reilly about the sculptures here in the garden. There is a wonderful exhibition here on offer. But first up, can we talk about the artwork that's in the house? Because there is a lot of it in there.
There's a lot of artwork there through all the rooms, through all the corridors, and we have rooms dedicated to artists like Andy Warhol. In there we have some of his iconic pieces, the Grace Kelly piece. We have a piece that's of Mick Jagger signed by both Jagger and Warhol.
Signed by both of them? Yes. How did you get your hands on that?
We buy and sell artwork from all over the world, and whenever they come up we're always looking to buy.
You've also got artists including the likes of of Banksy in there as well.
Well, Banksy is very topical at the moment with all his pieces in London appearing and disappearing. We have some of his iconic pieces like The Girl with the Balloon. It's an unsigned piece at 112,000.
112 grand. I mean, there's a lot of money in that house in terms of the artwork. How much are we talking?
We're talking over 9 million.
9 million. So how do you, obviously, in your business, you buy and sell artwork all the time, right?
Well, part of our business is buying and selling, but we also work directly with a lot of artists. We promote artists, promote their careers, and I enjoy that part of the business, working with them.
I mean, you support a lot of Irish artists as well.
We do. We support a lot of Irish artists, like we have Martin Mooney, Eugene Conway, John Redmond. Like there's just so many Irish artists who all make their living out of art, and it's great to be part of that journey.
A lot of people coming here at the weekend. There's tours around the exhibition, so people can come down here and take a tour for free, in fact.
Oh, it's for free. We have tours booked at 2, 12 and 4, but they can come at any time. And I love being here among people and the enjoyment of people, and it's great to hear so many people saying to me, you've brought an energy to the K Club.
And you're wheeling and dealing the artwork all your life and you're loving it.
Well, wheeling and dealing, and there was one, like the other morning there was a young girl came, a 10-year-old girl came here, and she says, I didn't want to come here today, but it's turned out to be the best day of my life.
There we go. Well, thank you so much for joining us here this morning, Oliver, because we're joined now by an artist, Patrick O'Reilly. Good morning to you, Patrick.
Good morning. How are you?
Patrick, we're on the grounds here at the K Club. First up, this is one of your pieces of art, a gorgeous sculpture here. Tell us about it.
Well, this is Broken Heart. So this is a combination of bronze. It's my hand, in fact, on a large scale.
Hand?
Yeah,
it's a fairly big hand.
It is, yeah. I'll show briefly just how the process is, but that's this is bronze, and it's set into crystalline resin, the heart. So we have a process whereby you can see the light coming through, which we find very nice with
it's really, really beautiful.
Especially with the sunshine.
Patrick, obviously you grew up in County Kilkenny in Ballybracket, but you did a lot of work, and in fact a lot of your training was up in Belfast.
I went to art college in Belfast, I did, and then I went on from there. I did my first exhibition in Dublin was I went to Galway first in the Galway Arts Festival, and then I went to the Hugh Lane, and since then I've shown everywhere. I went to London.
You've travelled all over the world, and I believe you've been in Switzerland. Tell us about this one. This is a work by Bosco.
Yes, it's Bosco. Yes, he's an Italian artist, and this is a combination of bronze, stainless steel, polished stainless steel, and bronze here. It's quite a large piece.
Travolti dalla Luna Montamentale.
Absolutely.
What a beautiful piece of artwork. And that's by Giacinto Bosco. And finally, the piece we're going to come to last is another one of your pieces here. Tell us about it here.
Well, most of my work is cast in bronze or aluminium, but these are actually fabricated in stainless steel.
Wow.
So, yeah, these are actually fabricated, so it's cut stainless steel and welded, so it's a different process than the normal casting process.
Do you make them in your workshop? Where's your workshop based?
Well, I'm based, I do a certain amount of work in Ireland, and a lot of the bronze casting I work now between in Italy and in Switzerland.
In Switzerland, so you bring them over, and obviously you travel with your exhibition. Can you show us actually, and show the viewers at home, how you actually cast in bronze?
Well, just very briefly, if you want to see, it's like a quick demonstration, but the basic materials of all sculpture are either wax. This is in warm water to make it soft. So this is wax, okay?
Okay.
That's wax. So look, it's very messy.
Oh, it's very messy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you put this into your mould,
as it gets cooler, you make something with that. See now, it's getting cooler, and then you mould that into whatever. It's just too hot at the minute. I put it into a basin of boiling water. Anyway, just to show you, when you make something in wax or in clay, this is the other material, clay, which is it's a soft material. This is different to wax. Some people prefer clay, some people prefer wax. I happen to like wax, but clay, you see, it's very malleable.
It is, and these are the
So what happens is the process very quickly is all bronze is made in the same way as it's been made since the alloy was discovered 3,000 years ago, and it hasn't changed. Basically, it's the same system. So after the original, I make something in wax, then we make a mould of that. This is rubber and plaster. This
amazing.
is a mould. So what we do is we make a mould around it. That's a two-piece mould. We close the mould. We pour in hot wax here.
Okay, and that seals it.
No, we pour in hot wax and then we pour it out. That's the beauty of it. And so it becomes hollow. So there's a piece, look.
Wow.
So there's the whole thing. So we pour it in wax here.
Yes.
And then we pour it back out so it's hollow. See if I break that. Look.
Oh, you just broke your own bit.
Yeah, no, it's fine. This is just wax. So it's hollow inside. Okay. They're all bigger bronze, and this is very small, like a small one. Like
and if
this
you
is
don't like it, you just break his arm off, and you can break his head off.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we can start again from scratch.
We can start again. So therefore,
I just destroyed all his artwork. How much is that worth?
Nothing now. But anyway, this is hollow. Yeah. So and then this is put into like a vat of like a ceramic material, and we pour in all, as I say, hot wax into this. And the wax is just a negative. That's too complicated, isn't it?
It is. But come here, we've really enjoyed our tour here this morning.
That's
Thank you
all
so
done.
much. And of course, that exhibition is free to the public down here at the K Club in Straffan in County Kildare. But for now, guys, look, I destroyed his artwork. Look, back to you in the studio. There we go.
I don't want to say anything, but I think Patrick's crying just behind Derek.
What's all that?
Yeah, they're breaking it.
That's just shocking. Shocking.
old Pat.
We can't let him anywhere.
Stick to the day job, Derek.
Anyway, but he is sculpting.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. You
God
never know.
only knows what work of modern art he'll have by the end of the day.
If it works, it works.
I can only imagine the list of skills Derek has in his CV with all this stuff he's doing every week.
Can you just? Oh my God.
Like,
what will he do next? That is the question.
How many pages
Find out
is the
tomorrow.
CV, Derek?
Okay. Still to come this morning, singer Róisín O talks new music and her recent engagement.
Plus, if you're looking to spice things up in the bedroom, we've advice on how to improve your sex life.
Stay with us. We're back in just a few minutes.
Now let's have a check on your morning paper, starting with the Irish Times. It leads with Cardinal Health took $100 million US dividend as 300 jobs cut. The paper writes that this payment disclosure is likely to lead to workers demanding bigger redundancies as the US Medical Devices Group plans to eliminate more than 300 jobs in County Offaly as they plan to close their Tullamore plant by next March.
The front page of the Irish Independent opens with relief for mortgage holders, a string of rate cuts on the way. The paper writes that mortgage holders can expect a series of interest rate cuts as falling inflation across Europe should offer relief on monthly repayments.
Over to the Irish Examiner, which goes with thieves hit bank account of photo visitor. The paper writes that there is a deep concern for customers of the wildlife park's financial safety, as one recent visitor describes how cyber criminals attempted to empty his bank account after he booked online tickets to the park last month.
On to the tabloids now, and the Irish Daily Mail reads, childcare boost for thousands of parents. The paper writes that a much-needed reduction in childcare costs will save families €144 per month per child in full-time care starting next week.
The Irish Daily Mirror goes with gunned down. The paper writes that 2 teenagers have been arrested in connection with the death of chef Sean Brady, who was shot outside his US restaurant following a confrontation with car thieves.
The Irish Daily Star also covers the death of the Tipperary native chef with their headline, Blasted by Teen Gang.
The Herald's headline reads, Trio's shotgun shambles. The paper writes that Gardaí believe a gun attack was foiled after 3 people were arrested with a loaded firearm in Dublin after their car cut out.
And finally, the Irish Sun writes, Threes electric. The paper writes that Oasis are poised to add another Dublin date when their 2 Croke Park concerts sell out in minutes tomorrow.
Well, please God they do. And following on from that headline, we were chatting about all things Oasis and the tickets, and there's lots of text coming in about that. Mandy says, I applied to that ballot thing like 30 hours ago. As still, I have no idea if I'm getting pre-sale tickets. I don't think anyone does. I don't know if I am either.
Well, I know that one of my sons and my daughter, they applied for the ballot, but they checked their junk. And that's where the reply was.
Okay, I'm going to check my junk as soon as we go on break.
The ballot just told me I'd find out if I got the pre-sale by 9 a.m, but it also told me I'd find out by 5. I guess I'm just going to have to spend my day refreshing my email. That's in from Pete.
OK, when you apply to the pre-sale ballot, they ask you your age. Ellen, thank you for getting in touch with us. She says her theory is that they won't let anyone in who's younger than the band.
And that's fair enough. I am sorry.
What they also did was they asked who was the original drummer of Oasis. That was the question you had to answer.
OK.
Did you have to Google it?
No comment.
Yes, you did.
And Sharon says, I feel like all the news coverage is making people want to buy tickets more than any interest in the band. FOMO is the best advertising there is. I don't think they even need to advertise it. Like, I'm hearing it on the radio and all over social media advertising. MCG didn't even need to put out one ad anywhere. It's going to sell out like that.
Not one press release.
I have seen Oasis a couple of times and they're amazing live.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing live.
Do you think they'll make the gigs that are falling out?
Well, let's hope they do. I mean, the gigs are next August, so you keep your fingers crossed that they'll stay together.
I saw the Eagles ones, and apparently none of them talk to each other. But they're all.
That's why the concert, that tour was called the When Hell Freezes Over tour. Because they said we'll reform, when hell freezes over.
Well, another band that there's been talks of them reuniting is the Smiths.
Yeah.
Are you fans of the Smiths?
Well, remember back in the day in school, half the lads had their hair out like this and the eyeliner trying to be all
and geraniums hanging out of their arse pockets.
And the long jumpers. God, yeah.
Well, it seems like there's a divide within the former band because Morrissey has taken to Instagram, right?
Yeah.
And he put out this post and he's talking about himself. He's talking in the third person. It's kind of hilarious. He's saying that a lucrative offer was made to Morrissey and Marr to tour worldwide as the Smiths throughout 2025. And then he said, Morrissey said yes to the offer. Marr ignored the offer. Morrissey undertakes a largely sold-out tour of the USA in November. Marr continues to tour as a special guest to New Order. I think it's a fun way of speaking about yourself and your co-workers.
Yeah.
I might start it.
Yeah, in the third person. It's wonderful.
Shiva was 3 minutes early to set today.
Elaine was 3 minutes late again. Story of her lives. If you would like any band to reform, though, what one would you pick?
Oh, wow. God, any band.
Dead or alive?
Dead or alive?
Yeah. We can work miracles here.
I don't know. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I'm Queen. Queen.
Oh, yeah.
Instantly. Imagine.
Queen and Live Age, the best gig there ever was.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's brilliant.
They don't have a magic wand.
I know. Anyway, speaking of best gigs that ever were, she's part of one of Ireland's best-known musical dynasties. Singer Róisín O joins us for a chat after this short break. And that was the new single, How Long, from singer Róisín O, to welcome you back. Now, she's no stranger to the music scene, performing at venues and festivals across the country and, of course, further afield.
Also growing up in one of Ireland's most prominent musical families. It would be a shock if she had taken up a career in anything else. Anyway, Róisín, good morning to you.
Good morning, guys.
Lovely to have you here.
Lovely to be back.
Before we start talking music, let's say congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
You have realised you can't be happy all your life. You're now engaged.
I am, yes. We got engaged in February, yeah. Mad.
Come on, tell us all about it. How did he propose?
We were actually, we were down in the Caboo cabins in Cavan. There's lovely, outdoor cabins in the middle of nowhere. And we were in the hot tub, actually. It was very funny because I was so not expecting it. I had brought an old Speedo that I had from when I was 16. I had no makeup on, was not expecting it at all. And he got down on one knee in the hot tub and you can see the photos online. Yeah, there's me absolutely buzzing.
That's the ring. Where did he hide the ring in the hot tub?
I know. Well, it was under the towel somewhere, actually. He was freaked about that.
Oh, that's so cute. Were you expecting it at all?
Not at all. Not at all. But so happy, yeah. And we've had a lovely couple of months just being engaged. And enjoying it, yeah.
Fab. Yeah. And did you ring the fam straight away and
straight
tell them
away,
all?
Told them all, yeah. They all love him and he's already a part of the family, so yeah.
Hang on a minute. Did he not ask for permission first?
He did, yeah. He asked my dad at a very awkward encounter in the front garden, and Dad was like, "Oh yeah, sure, grand, yeah."
So you're going out long enough.
We all love you anyway.
Yeah. There could have been a steward's inquiry if Joe hadn't been asked.
I know.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. No, I think he had to ask him, but Dad is very blasé. But they all love him, so it was perfect. Yeah.
It's lovely having those milestones.
Yeah.
And you told us before we came in here, you've moved into your new house as well. So it's all lovely.
So this year is has just been really adulting all year. You know, all of a sudden it's great. It's great.
Scary grown-up stuff.
Yeah, but about time, I think, for me.
And how about the wedding plans? Have you anything booked yet? Or are
No,
you just
geez,
fly?
that's enough for this year, I think.
An engagement ring and a house.
Yeah, a few gigs and a few tours and a few albums maybe before the wedding. We'll see.
Yeah, but you're performing a rake of shows though in the next while, aren't you? So tell us about them.
I'm heading on the Irish tour, starting on the 4th of October in Louth, and we're hitting Limerick, Cork, Dublin, obviously in the Opium on the 8th of November. Yeah, I'm hitting a load of shows. Kilkenny, can't wait. Yeah.
Okay, do you still get pre-show nerves? Yeah.
Sometimes, like for the big Dublin shows, I will, because I know everyone in the audience, and like all the most important people there are usually there for me, and yeah, just wanting to make those shows really special. And like this recording that I just brought out is actually from my last big Dublin show in the Academy, my biggest ever show. And I usually would really shy away from putting out a live recording because I only hear the bad things, you know, I only hear the things that go wrong. But my sound engineer Darren sent me this recording, and I was so blown away by it and by my band, my amazing live band, that I was like, this is a great opportunity for people to hear what the show is going to be like, you know, later in the year. It's just a real hopping live band sound.
It's one of your songs that people know and people sing along to.
It's from my first album, and it's like completely taken on a life on its own. In the live show, there's a drum solo and everybody gets involved, and it's great. Yeah.
But there's a lovely truth in live music though that you don't get from the studio recordings, I think.
Exactly. And as I said, it's usually something that I'm such a perfectionist, and I'm like, oh no, that's wrong, this is wrong. But sometimes you just get a magic moment in a show where the crowd are on your side and the band are playing a blinder, and I'm singing well, and I'm like, wow, yeah, I think people need to hear this. So I just put it out sort of on a whim there recently, and yeah, I'm really glad people are loving it. So yeah.
Okay. We had a bit of a shindig when the Olympians came home.
Yes.
And you were part of that.
I was, yeah, it was great. It was a real honour to be invited to come and sing. I arrived right as all the Olympians were arriving and got to meet them all, and I just couldn't get over how humble and lovely and normal they all are, and just so happy to be there and buzzing for the crowd. You know, it was their first moment to arrive home, and the crowd of like 20,000 people just chanting, trying to get photos and so behind them. And it was a real proud moment for Ireland. I think we had such an amazing time this year at the Olympics.
And what was it like being part of that? How did you get asked to do it?
It was so mad. I actually got asked to do it because I had met Kelly before at an event a couple of years ago for Team Ireland, and one of her, or the organisers there, we got on really well. I was over in Paris then playing for them with the Coronas, and they just got on to me sort of last minute here, will you come down and sing a song? And I was like, of course I will. Wow, what an honour to be asked and be part of that moment, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Yeah. But when you have moments like the Olympics, and then you go back to your live shows, and then you go back to, I suppose, singing maybe in a pub locked in Dingle in the after hours with the rest of your gang. I mean, music is in your blood, really, isn't it?
It is. It's sort of, it's all encompassing. It's such a part of our lives. But yeah, as you're saying, in all those instances, like, I think for me, like, singing is just my passion above it all else, and singing, like, sometimes singing in a pub like that, I'll get more excited about singing for a group of people who don't know me, and singing for them and seeing their reaction, even compared to coming doing my own show. Like, that, they're both different things, but it's just ingrained in me, this love for singing, and I suppose I just haven't been able to get away from that my whole life. You know?
Yeah. I remember your brother a couple of years back saying that's now, because of the way the music business has gone, it's live performing. That's where you make your bread and butter.
Yeah, big time.
100%. But you still need to be putting out new music to encourage people to come to see you.
Exactly.
But it's in live performance.
It goes hand in hand. And yeah, of course, you see it with the streams now on Spotify. It's just in terms of where the CDs were even 15 years ago, it's just completely changed where that income is coming from. But as you say, I need to, release songs like this to encourage people to come to the live show and hopefully have a great time and a great night out. And that's really, I think, where the magic in my music is live for sure. Yeah. So I'm hoping, people come out to see me now in October and November. Can't wait.
When it comes to writing your songs, though, are you very much lock yourself in a room and do it on your own, or did you collaborate with other people? Or do you ask your mother, who's one of my favourite people in the world, Mary Black? I adore her, and great old chats with her. Do you ask her for advice, or do you want to kind of paddle your own canoe in that?
Yeah, I think at a younger age, I was actually very self-conscious about my writing. I was always so naturally you know, talented at singing just without trying that much. So when I came to songwriting and I wasn't deadly great away, I was like annoyed at myself, you know. So I sort of grew up with a bit of a complex that I wasn't a songwriter. So because of that, I wrote for a very long time with different people, and it actually hasn't been since the last year or so that I started writing completely on my own. And I was down in Dingle for the whole of January writing new songs, and I found myself sort of veering into the folk side of things that I grew up in, and that's what naturally came out of me. And yeah, that's what you'll be hearing now over the next while. I think they're veering into the folk pop elements. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I read recently you were saying the amount of people your age who are going to see your mum.
Yeah.
Because they grew up listening to their mums and dads listening to
100%, yeah.
It's funny how that music just stays in your subconscious from your childhood.
Oh, totally. And I think especially as young people, like in the car, when you're 10 listening to Mary Black and all you want to listen to is like Alanis Morissette or Blur, like please put on Oasis, like I don't want to listen to Mary Black anymore. But now it's come full circle where like someone put on Mary Black and in the party and everyone goes wild, you know. It's ingrained in, I think, people my age growing up in Ireland, and you see that at the gigs. These like women in their mid-30s losing their minds and knowing every single word of a woman's heart, No Frontiers, and I'm there for it. I'm all there for it because all my friends are those people as well. And
what one do you sing together? What do you duet best at?
Oh God, what do we duet best at? I don't know. We end up singing a lot. A Wayfaring Stranger, which is one that I've heard her singing when I was younger. It's a beautiful sort of old American folk song, but that's the first one that comes to mind.
Oh,
yeah,
lovely.
I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
No, thank you for
Best
having
luck
me.
on the tour. I'm sure it'll be sold out, and congratulations, of course, again on the engagement.
Yeah, and the release of the live version of.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Now, for more info on Róisín's 2024 autumn-winter tour dates, check out her socials at Róisín O Music or head over to ticketmaster.ie for further details.
Up next, you might want to keep the little ones out of the room for our next item. We've advice on how to rekindle the fires in the bedroom. That's after the break.
Died when you
Fáilte Gíorás. Now is the time to cover any little one's ears for the next few minutes as we dive into a discussion about sex.
Many people will say sex in your 40s and beyond can be thrilling, adventurous and enjoyable, but for some, it's about reigniting the spark, while others are trying to figure out just how to communicate about it. Here to guide us through this is clinical sexologist Emily Power-Smith. Emily, thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning.
Thank you for having me.
I do think sometimes people in their 40s, there's a presumption that everything goes downhill pretty rapidly. And in some ways, hormonally, it does. In other ways, it can get really better. But why do you think there can be sometimes a problem in maintaining proper intimacy and a decent sex life when you are in that kind of milestone age?
A lot of things are happening all at once. A lot's happening with, as you said, hormones are changing. They start to really plummet from 40 onwards for women. They really are lowering for men from their 20s. So by 40s, you start to get the physical effects of that for men. Their blood flow isn't as strong, so their erections mightn't be as good. And then for women, perimenopause and menopause can be starting anytime from about 40 onwards as well. And that creates a big change. We've also often got ageing parents at that age. We may have young children at that age working a lot, on our devices all the time, and put all of those things together, there isn't always a lot of headspace and time for the sexual part of the relationship. If it wasn't a priority, and if we relied on it to be spontaneous and just something that happened when we were younger and had more time, it tends to just get bumped down the priority list if we don't consciously keep it higher. And then it's left till the last thing on our list during the day. It becomes a thing on the list, and it loses the sparkle. Do you really want to just complete a list and sex is the last thing on that?
Kind of thing, I know.
It's not a sexy way to think about it.
No. And let's talk about communication. Communication can be a huge issue for couples, talking about anything. But I think for some people, when it comes to sexual needs and desires, it can be an uncomfortable or difficult thing to talk about. How can couples approach it so that they feel more comfortable to go with their partner about it?
I mean, I think a really lovely way to approach it is how are we? How are we doing? I've been wondering if things could be a little bit closer or a little bit more intimate, often people haven't even spoken to each other about what intimacy means for them. And quite often couples will have different ideas of what's needed in order to get into bed. So quite often the male brain might get that feeling of closeness and intimacy from the sexual intimacy, whereas the female brain might need the connection and conversations and closeness in order to want to be sexual. I'm stereotyping two genders, but actually even in same-sex relationships, there tends to be one person who's more sexual and one person who's more into the relational side of things. So if you talk about it and realise that that's just the way your brains work and nobody's wrong, it's a nice starting point. So what does it mean to you, and what would you need in order to feel a little bit sexier, or a little bit, does it interest you? Are you curious about anything, rather than we've got a problem and you never put out and I don't think you fancy me anymore and are you having an affair?
Yeah.
Which is how it can go.
If you are in that space that you think, listen, the spark is gone, what are we going to do? There can be sometimes a bit of a panic and go out buying gadgets and gizmos and outfits and all this sort of stuff. And do you think it's necessarily you need to go down that route to some surprises and spontaneity? Or do you think maybe discussing it? Because, I mean, our brain is our biggest sexual organ.
I'm always going to come back to discussing it. And I know it's not the Cosmo answer, and it's not necessarily, you know, get yourself into the position of a wheelbarrow and your Fridays are sorted. In your 40s, you're not going to do that. You're not going to risk that with your back. And
My discs are dodgy. I'm not going to do that. Are you mad?
So if you can talk about it, I mean, I think there are certain things that can really help. Being on your hands and knees in your 40s and 50s, that's not so easy. And particularly if you want to hold a toy as well, which we often need as we get older, particularly for people with vulvas, you know, blood flow isn't as good for us either. So toys can be a lovely thing to introduce. Just hands can get tired and mouths can get tired, and women take a little longer to get excited. So things like putting cushions under you, or you can buy a sex wedge on Amazon.
Yeah,
it's
but
not
I'm
even difficult
not even
these
talking about
days.
the physical, actual acrobatics of it in one way, but actually getting around to having the proper discussion, because the whole no sex please, we're Irish thing kind of goes through. And like, even if you know someone like the back of your hand, talking about something, well, our love life really isn't doing it for me anymore, it can cause huge rifts in a relationship. And we see time and time again that the relationships tend to fracture in and around that time. And sometimes, I know a friend of mine, very wise woman, once said sex is 10% of a good relationship and 90% of a bad one. And that can hold true.
Yeah, I think it can. I think, again, if you just start the conversation more with, how are we doing? How do you think we're doing? And what works for you? And are you interested? There's no point in trying to force your partner into spicing things up if they don't like you. So, you know, we got to start with liking each other. And that can happen in different ways. Yes, we should have date nights. It's a great idea. Yes, we should put our devices down. That's really important. And do that on the date night. Put your devices away. Don't bring them out. It's really important. Devices are actually, you know, addictive. But then the other thing we need to remember is you need lives separate from each other. You need time to miss each other. You need to bring some energy back to the relationship from outside of it. Being together all the time is not healthy for sex.
Yeah, so this kind of familiarity and routine, it can breed a kind of roommate effect, can't it?
Spot on.
Yeah, so how can couples recognise when that's affecting their intimacy, and do you have any practical advice to deal with it?
I'm going to say something that is probably contentious to a lot of people. If you're in a relationship, but the caveat is, if you're in a relationship where you love each other and you trust each other and that spark has gone, I give women in particular permission to objectify their partners. Start looking at them. Find the things that you find sexy in your partner. You don't have to be crude about it if that's not what you're into, and you don't have to even name it, but start training your brain to look. It's like a gratitude diary, but for sex and for bodies, and for start trying to find the things you find attractive about your partner. Start flirting, start bringing some of those, sit around and talk about what used to be attractive to you with each other, what turned you on, what was exciting. Reminisce. It gets the juices flowing a little bit. It gets people talking a little bit more and remembering that there's a connection there that can be bridged again.
But I suppose if you're cross with somebody for not taking out the bins when they said they would, and if you're cross with somebody for not hanging a curtain rail that you told them a month ago, the last thing you're going to do is be intimate with them. So you have to address maybe other issues in the relationship as well.
Absolutely. And it goes both ways, you know, so that's a very, you know, it's such a common thing that we hear women talking about. But equally, we have to start listening to men as well who are, and in same-sex couples, everybody needs to have their needs met to a degree, but we just have to make sure we get it in the right order. Yeah. So sex before you like someone, not a good idea. Get to like each other again, and then the sex. Then the person who isn't so sexual may need to actually gift a little bit of the sexual intimacy to their partner. You need trust, you need good communication as the basis for any of this.
And you need a bit of give and take, literally.
You do. Without that, it can get coercive, or it can get a little bit darker.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us on the show today with your pearls of wisdom. It's a pleasure. Now, if you would like to know more about this subject from Emily, head over to empowersme.com.
Up next, how to feed a family of 5 for under a tenner. We're back after this break.
Yes, thanks for staying with us. It's back to school time, so between new books and uniforms, September can be a tight month financially.
So we set money-saving expert Kaz Mooney a task of feeding a family of 5 for under a tenner. And not only has she delivered, she's come in way under budget. Tell us how you did it, Kaz.
So I'm making a chicken stroganoff. It's just over €6 for the family of 5, so it's absolutely great value. I'm starting off with some olive oil. And then you've already pre-cooked your chicken.
Okay.
So I recommend browning that, setting it aside, and then you're going to add in some onion into this pan.
Okay.
Okay. So do you season that chicken, or is it just straight in as it?
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
And do you bulk up on the kind of basic things like onion then to bulk it up?
Yeah, and I love picking it up when I see it in the Super 6, so I'll grab a load of them. They're great to freeze as well, and then you always have them ready, like diced and in the freezer.
Oh, you're one of those, very organised, are we? Okay, I respect
that. Batch cooking, it's all about the batch cooking.
All about batch cooking. Yeah, I'm a big fan of freezer meals as well, so I like to put them in a freezer bag, pop them into the freezer, take them out, put them in the slow cooker when you're having a busy day.
Oh my goodness.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Planning ahead, thinking ahead.
Life hacks.
Because now September's coming, so you're not only thinking of school lunches, you're also thinking of homework.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we've a really busy year this year, so I'm all about trying to save time as well as money. So, we're doing both. So all you're going to do is you're going to cook these until they become translucent. And once they become translucent, we're going to add in some garlic and some paprika. I love smoked paprika.
Oh, really? It gives it a little bit of kick, doesn't it?
Big fan. I don't know, it's almost a smoky flavour.
Yeah.
So I'm going to add them in. And I'm going with these chicken fillets. They're on offer at the moment. They're only $2.99.
Wow.
That is a great price for 500 grams. And that's in Aldi at the moment in the special offers. Something I like to do as well is pop them all in the freezer. You know, have a load of them ready to go.
Yes.
Add them to your meal prep as well.
Okay, great. Yeah. So you can load up on that now, stick them all in the freezer and use them then in the months to come.
Yeah, that's it. So,
so our onions need a few minutes and then they're good.
Yeah. So add them in for a few minutes, get them nice and translucent, and then we're going to pop in the garlic.
Great.
So that is 4 cloves of garlic.
Oh, good luck. Right.
I'm a big fan of garlic as well.
Right, okay.
This is a big punchy flavoured dish.
Okay.
So I do recommend adding that flavour, and it will cook down. We're going to be adding parsley in as well, and sour cream, so the
that will help with the garlic.
It will. It'll neutralise.
You won't have to sleep in the spare room.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you put the paprika in at this stage as well?
Yeah. We're going to add in about a tablespoon of paprika.
Okay, great. Oh, look, she's free-handing it. Measure with your heart. I love that.
So this is going to add a bit of colour as well. So we want to get like a bit of colour into this dish. So normally stroganoff is done with beef. We're going to do it with chicken today.
Okay.
And a key ingredient for a stroganoff as well is mushrooms.
Yes.
So I've just got some nice sliced mushrooms here. I've just gone for normal button mushrooms, but you can use chestnut mushrooms or whatever kind of mushrooms you like.
And if you wanted to do a vegan or vegetarian,
you could.
The mushrooms would be the good meat substitute.
Yes. So you have your mushrooms, which are a great source of protein, and you can add in corn, or you could also add in. I love chickpeas
Yes.
as well.
Oh, yeah,
And they would
delicious.
be great in this. Or even beans, butter beans would be lovely.
Yes, yeah. They have a lovely texture to them as
Yeah,
well.
lovely texture. Yeah.
Okay, so in
So
the mushrooms.
and
How,
in your
how many
mushrooms-
grams of mushrooms did you use here?
So this is 300 grams. So it's just one whole pack. I measure by how easy it is to get the
Of
ingredients.
course,
I don't want to
yes.
be buying 2 packets.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've gone with 1 packet of mushrooms, and you're just going to cook them till they're kind of golden.
Yeah, they don't take very long, mushrooms, once they hit the pan.
God, the colour's great. Is that
Isn't
that's
it?
from the paprika, isn't it?
Yeah, it's from the paprika, and it's really going to add in some colour and some flavour.
Oh, the smells are wafting over.
They are good.
So because you've pre-cooked the chicken, this is a very quick and easy dinner. Something that you can also do is cook a chicken, say you've done a roast the day before, and add in some leftover chicken as well to this dish.
Yeah.
And it can be a great way to make it even faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you make this recipe up yourself, Cass?
Yeah, well, it would be tweaked from a beef like stroganoff.
So
Yeah.
creative.
So I'd say everything has kind of come from either learning myself or from my mum.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I'm
Mothers are a
totally
great source.
self-taught.
Yes, okay.
I didn't even do home ec in school, so no, I did woodwork.
And how's that going for you?
It's not going well.
While the onions are going translucent, she'll build you a set of shelves.
Great, great.
So once that's that looks like it's starting to get nice and golden, then you're going to add in your chicken. You're going to add in your stock. So you're going to grab your cooked chicken,
And
throw
do
that
you
in.
use veggie stock or chicken stock for
So
this?
I've gone with chicken stock for this, but you can use vegetable stock if you're making a vegetarian dish.
So there are options.
Yes, lots of options.
Yeah, of course you can, you know, change it up. Like, say, if someone doesn't
Absolutely.
like mushrooms, you could maybe use
Absolutely.
peppers or...
Yeah. And this is a great one as well. You can add your veg on the side, so you can add in, say, if you're a big fan of peas or broccoli or whatever it is, you can have that on the side. Yeah, and we've gone all in with the mushrooms.
Great.
Okay.
But that's what a stroganoff is,
300
really,
grams.
isn't it? Yeah.
And then to add a bit more flavour, we're going to grab some Dijon mustard.
Yum.
And we're going to go for 4 tablespoons of this.
Oh, 4 tablespoons. Now, I have to say, I put mustard on everything and in everything I can. I just love it.
And this is a Dijon mustard, so it's a little less spicy.
Okay.
It's more about adding the flavour and the texture, and it's great with the kids as well. But if you don't have Dijon, you can, of course, get some English mustard and mix it in with some
you can use
mayo.
any mustard.
Okay. Okay. No, Dijon's a nice mustard.
Yeah. And so next we're going to be adding in the sour cream, and I find a lot of the time people are worried about it splitting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's such a creamy texture. So a lot of the time what I like to do is grab the sour cream, stick it into a bowl, and then get a little bit of the sauce, mix it in before you add
Great,
it.
so you take the temperature up first.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. You've got a minute left on the clock now,
Yeah.
Kaz, just so you know.
Yeah, no worries.
And this will take about how long? Because is it good to leave it simmering?
Yes, you ideally want to leave it simmering for about 10 minutes, I'd say.
Okay. All right.
So we're a little pressed for time.
Yes, we are a little bit today.
So today it will be not quite as simmered.
Okay, so that's you mixing it in with the...
Yes, so I'm just going to mix it together, and then while that's being mixed as well, I'm actually going to lower the heat as well.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So it doesn't get too much of a shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, pop that in and then give us a taste.
Well, that's it. Listen, with a pan that size, you're getting a couple of days out of that.
You are,
You're
I know,
getting a
family
dinner
of
and a
5.
lunch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Handy. That's what you want, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to pop a spoon into the bowl here, Kaz.
Yeah, no worries. I'll just grab some parsley.
Fabulous. Looks great. Smells are beautiful in the studio here.
They are.
Now.
She needs to be careful.
Yeah. That's a dud. You don't want it to go all wrong right now.
No.
Okay. Martin,
There's
you're
a
going
fork just there. If that's...
Just grab something.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. And mushrooms is, the rice is the perfect addition.
Yes, to bulk it up there. Okay, Martin's going to have a little quick taste. How is it? Thumbs up, 2 thumbs up for Martin. Kaz, thank you so much for joining us today. Over to Elaine.
Thanks for that, guys. Now, coming up tomorrow, we chat to 2 young women paving the way for the traveller community here in Ireland. Plus, he was once scammed out of £2,000 by a fake landlord, would you believe? Comedian Danny O'Brien tells us what actually really happened.
As tickets for Oasis go on sale, we'll have some of the Gallagher brothers' previously owned memorabilia here in the studio.
All that plus a meatball curry for lunch and tips on ridding your home of wasps. We're back in the morning from 9. You're still eating?
Well, still eating. It was delicious.
Was it delicious and lovely?
Absolutely gorgeous. Good luck to those who were in the ballot for their Oasis tickets.
Yes.
Yeah. We've had a few texts in as well this morning. Sexperting we were talking about. I wish we didn't shame toy usage in bed so much because your sexpert's right. As you age, you do lose sensitivity. That's in from Amber. Thank you for that, Amber. Lots of other texts in here that I really don't think is suitable to read out this hour of the morning anyway.
But thank you.
Anyway, thank you for texting in. We do appreciate it. And I'm delighted you're having a lovely time in the bedroom.
See you tomorrow, guys.